Hi, everyone. I'm Renee Sharon from AIPAC's Jerusalem office. I recently sat down with Patrick Nanson, a U.S. Navy SEAL veteran and CEO of Maritime Operations Group. Patrick spent time in Israel through a startup accelerator that brings together American and Israeli veterans. We discussed what he gained working alongside Israeli counterparts, how Israel's innovation ecosystem sharpened his approach as an entrepreneur, and why these people to people connections strengthen America's security, economy, and global standing. Our conversation is a powerful reminder that the U.S. Israel relationship delivers real, tangible benefits for the United States by leveraging shared innovation, confronting shared challenges, and working together in pursuit of shared values. Here's my conversation with Pat. So, hi, Pat. Thank you so much for being with us. I want to dive right in and ask you about your
Mm.
experience. So, tell me a little bit about your trip to Israel. What stood out to you the most?
I recently went to Israel with a veteran founder accelerator program, and it was a really amazing mix of veteran Navy SEAL founders and veteran Israeli SEAL founders. The idea being that the program would bring together military veterans with common cultural background. I think what stood out to me the most in my week there was we went to both Jerusalem and to Tel Aviv, and you have this incredible contrast between the historic locations and feeling of Jerusalem with this thriving metropolis that's very hip of Tel Aviv. And there were just so many young, creative, vibrant people and shockingly good food. I have to say, in Tel Aviv, I had the best hamburger of my life in Tel Aviv. It was that contrast of the place that made it, very, very special for me. On top of the kind of the business aspects that we got to get into through Tel Aviv University and part of the mentorship of the program, which I'm happy to talk more about.
What drew you to participate in an Israeli American accelerator program?
I've always admired Israelis, especially the IDF, and the work done by the IDF. We've had many opportunities to work closely together. Um, I had just started my business at the time, or defense technology company, and the opportunity to travel with the program and to work on my nascent business was just too good to pass up. I was very fortunate to meet the founder of the program, an Israeli American former Shayatet member, so Israeli SEAL. Um, and it was the passion of the people involved in the program and the passion of the experience that the leadership brought to the program that really convinced me that for me as a founder, it was going to be really good to invest my time, and that really paid off for me. In addition to, really what I saw coming through that week in Israel was kind of the amount of really, really amazing veteran founder experience that was available to me there, and the amount of community I found there. Especially on the military government side, you can ask someone well, do you know this guy in the submarine program? And they're like, oh yeah, he'll come talk to you tomorrow. We'll have him sit down with you for coffee. And everyone knows everyone. It's a big club.
Yeah, everyone knows everyone. It's kind of like a 1 degree of separation here as opposed to six
Hmm.
degrees in the United States.
Yeah,
I want to ask you
absolutely.
a little bit more about what you just mentioned. How would you describe the dynamic between American and Israeli veterans?
It took us about 15 minutes to start making fun of each other, which is a very good sign in our culture.
Yes, definitely.
When you can start bringing some comedy to the situation, everyone's relaxed. But I'll dig more into that in a more serious way. American veterans are 1% of the population, and we've been at war from 2001 to 2021. I mean, we've really been at war our entire careers. There is no other ally that understands this experience, both when it comes to professional and personal impact, like Israelis do, because it's a similar dynamic. There have been consistent periods of conflict, and you're always living in the shadow of conflict. And we understand each other from this perspective. No one else has spent 20 years at war, and the importance of being constantly ready, and I think also the importance of doing something that gives back to the defense community, even from the outside, is incredibly apparent to both of us.
As an American entrepreneur, how did engaging with Israel's high-tech ecosystem kind of contribute to your own growth and success?
So my co-founder and I had started our company in March of 2023, and I visited Israel in March of 2024. So we just had an incorporated business and a pitch deck, and that's really it. I had just left the military, and we were looking, okay, where do we go from here? How do we journey into this new ecosystem? We just received our first offer letter from a venture capital company who ultimately became our first investor, and I had no idea what I was doing. This was all brand new to me. And it was this accelerator program that really brought in the professors and business leaders in Tel Aviv that taught me things like team building, how to raise money, how to leverage AI, and I think most importantly, how to enhance our story. Every single day we were doing pitch practice from, okay, can you tell your story in 5 minutes to can you sell it in 2 minutes? Okay, now can you sell me in 1 minute? And you're not just coming up with a story and talking to yourself. We were getting in front of, your newest 14 friends who are all veterans who you respect a lot, and it's a little scary to get up in front of them and talk. But can you really hone that in a way that you never would have before? And I'll tell you, I've never had to sell my company in 1 minute, but I know I can now. And that's it was a great gift to walk away with. And I'll just say beyond that, the leaders of the program, the two, one Israeli American and one Israeli, were incredibly generous with their time, walking through each of the steps of how I could make a good decision on how we brought in our first financer. And that's an incredibly important decision when you're leading a startup. It can really make or break you.
Yeah, Pat, the beginning of what you just said, how you kind of came and started from scratch, it reminds me of a quote from Israel's first prime minister, Ben Gurion, who said
Mhm.
that in Israel, in order to be a realist, you have to believe in miracles. And I think
Yeah, I
it's
mean
kind of a
it's the entire story of Israel. There's a lot of boldness and
uh,
confidence that you have to have, and I think that it shows in the culture, right? You're 3 or 4 generations in, and you still have business leaders taking that on and being very bold in the challenges that they want to tackle.
I want to ask you a little bit more about your experience, and I want to kind of
Mhm.
drill down and ask, can you identify any kind of specific skills or specific insights that you took back as a result of your time in Israel and this experience?
The thing that stood out to me most about my time with the Israeli entrepreneur community, veteran entrepreneurs specifically, was how much they felt like they belonged in defense technology, in entrepreneurship, in being creative, in utilizing the boldness and the set of skills that they'd gotten out of the IDF to give something back as part of the business community. And I touch on that because in the US, a 35-year-old veteran starting a company sort of breaks the mold. Our idea of what an entrepreneur is a 22-year-old Stanford dropout who's a very intelligent whiz kid and goes and raises a bunch of money and completely blows everyone away. And it can feel very lonely to further along in your career, be making that really bold leap. It can kind of feel like the bottom dropped out when you go, okay, I'm here, I'm starting something from scratch, and I don't have the money, and I don't know how to do it. Um, and in Israel, there was such a vibrant community of veteran entrepreneurs, um, and it was, um, I would say, it was really inspiring for me to see how many of them took that on as a responsibility. Um, and I would say my core belief, and I think it was reinforced by the Israeli attitude, is that entrepreneurship is another form of service, especially in defense technology, because it's necessary for our national defense. And I think veterans have a responsibility to do something impactful with their skills, just like we did in the service. And in this arena, you really can impact folks much beyond yourself or your unit with the skills and the creativity that you bring to the entrepreneurial space. And it was being in Israel that gave me a sense of not only is there a community around you that supports you in doing that, but also that's the best place for you to be, or potentially the best place for you to be as a veteran is using everything you learned to do something creative in a new domain.
Was there any particular experience here that influenced your approach to leadership in America in any kind of special way?
Absolutely. When I was in Israel, I had the opportunity to have one of the Israeli veterans of the conflicts in 2000 and 2001 share a story from one of his leaders. And this was during conflict in the West Bank. And this was an Israeli group of SEALs about to do their first raid into the West Bank. And it was the Israeli unit commander giving a speech to his troops. They do the mission briefing, and then the commander gets up to say a few words. And while everyone is expecting sort of a rah-rah motivational speech, they were all shocked because the commander got up, and what he said was, "I want each of you to do your job and take care of each other, but I also want you to take care of them," meaning the Palestinians, because they're your neighbors, and that's your job too. And this
Wow.
almost brought tears to my eyes hearing the story because it gave such nuance to how we think of the black and white of the Israeli-Palestine conflict and the sense of humanity that I think the IDF, even in very challenging times, tries to bring to the conflict.
Right. And it's something that unfortunately the world just doesn't get a glimpse of the humanity of soldiers, of IDF soldiers and their day-to-day operations and just trying to keep
Mhm.
us safe and doing their best also to protect innocents on the other side. Thank you
Yeah, no,
for
I'm
sharing that
happy to,
beautiful
of
story.
course.
I want to ask you one more question about your entrepreneurial experience. What would you tell other American veteran entrepreneurs about the value of time spent in Israel?
I would just say you have to go. I mean, as a veteran, it's inspiring. You have a thriving veteran entrepreneur community. And at least on the special operations side, those veteran entrepreneurs that I interacted with, everyone was doing something big and something impactful, even if it wasn't in the defense space. We had the CEO of a tethered drone company. We had the CEO of a network that they were using to maximize the efficiency of container ships. We had a veterinarian, again, veteran SEAL, veterinarian who was developing a device that would transform food scraps into dog food. So there's just all these very unique, but also very impactful things. Not all military projects, but no one was starting a coffee company or making t-shirts. They were all trying to do something that would really change whatever field they had gone into after the military, and that's real innovation. And it was very, very impactful to me, especially taking on the major challenges that we have at the company.
Did any of these guys, any of the Israeli entrepreneurs, were any of them developing technologies that you know were maybe used in the United States? Are you aware of that?
They were certainly marketing to the United States, and I would have to follow up to see if they've actually gotten to adoption in the United States because they were starting up
Right,
U.S.
because it was the
entities.
beginning, right?
It was the beginning for most of them, but particularly the tether drone company was something that was very applicable to the work we do in Customs and Border Patrol and general Homeland Security, Homeland Defense work.
So I want to ask actually a little bit more about that, about the U.S.-Israel relationship.
Mhm.
From your perspective, how does the U.S.-Israel relationship benefit the United States?
When you go to Israel, you start to appreciate the cultural similarities, whether it's around the values we have about family, about education, about hard work, rule of law, service. We have more in common with Israel even than a lot of our European allies. And I think for veterans, even that deeper connection, because every Israeli is a veteran of some form of service, you have an immediate sense of community. We don't have any other ally like that in the Middle East. There's nothing even close to it when it comes to how much background we share. And I think if we want to see the values that we hold dear, democracy, capitalist economy, rule of law, if we want to see these things preserved, then we need to have friends like Israel and we need to keep a close relationship. That doesn't mean we're going to agree on everything, but it does mean that we should always be close and communicating and trying to move forward together.
And I want to get even more specific on this question. More specifically, how do you think the U.S. military benefits from the cooperation with the Israeli military?
Because of the constant conflict, Israel is what we would call a battle lab. You have to be innovating because you are always under threat. And because of that, we learn new tactics from the Israeli military that keep us safe on the battlefield. We acquire new technologies, sometimes from Israel. And beyond this, we have a strategic partnership that's incredibly important. And we even sometimes lean on Israel to do things militarily that we can't or won't do ourselves. There are many different facets in which we collaborate, all of which are to our mutual benefit.
I want to ask you one more question. What's the one thing you wish more Americans understood about Israel?
I wish more Americans understood the complexity of Israeli society. We're in a moment where Israel is very polarizing in the United States. I promise you that Israel is even more polarizing in Israel. Everyone has an opinion, and they all care really deeply about this young, vibrant country. And sometimes they have very different ways of solving the challenges that that country faces. And I think that the diversity of that opinion and the healthy debate which occurs and which all happens from a deep desire to preserve this incredible society that's been built in such a short time is really the most impressive thing about Israel. And it's something that every American should experience firsthand.
I think oftentimes we say that we're one big family here in Israel, for the good and for the bad, everything that
Yeah,
entails.
absolutely. And they don't, nothing is more fun than arguing about what you should do next with your family members.
I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us and being here with us. I wish you the best of luck in all of your entrepreneurial endeavors. And I hope that, maybe we can see each other here if you ever come back for another visit here in Israel.
Great. Thank you so much, Renee.